Alrighty, y'all. Welcome back. Hope your weekend was great. Let's take a look at some maps. All right, people who identify as English in England. Now, at first, when I'm reading this, I'm a little confused. Like, English in England, you'd think that would be a lot, but according to this, there's not as much as you'd think. I thought maybe it'd be closer to like 80% or above, but really the highest percentages would be the red, which is not that much of the country, and even that is 69 to 77.5%. Most of it being around kind of the 50%. Now, I'm assuming this is kind of around the London area, most of this green, right? Because I'm not sure off the top of my head how much that metro area appears to be on this map, but as you would expect, that's a lot more international, and so it can get as low as, around 20% in the green areas. But there's also some green areas up here as well. Yeah, I thought this was actually pretty cool. And according to the comments, this pretty much completely flipped in the 2021 census, because I believe that map above was more using like 2013 for reference. More people identified as British than English. That most likely explanation is why they changed the order of the options, so British came first. Someone also mentioning why is a lower percentage green and a higher percentage red? Should have been opposite. Yeah, I agreed. Regions in Europe that are richer and poorer than East Germany. Now, of course, I'm not a history buff or a world expert by any means, not even close. But, my experience from what I've consumed in media is usually they always act like East Germany is the back alley, right? Like the poorer region. And what's funny is if you look at this map, regions in red are actually poorer than East Germany. And that's a lot of this map, like the majority of it. So clearly East Germany is not doing as bad as people might lead you to believe, at least from the outside. Now, I want to mention the black region on the map is East Germany without Berlin. And this is based on Eurostat's purchasing power standard. And then, of course, green would be the richer parts. I don't know. I found this pretty interesting. Also, all the rest of Germany is indeed richer, except for it looks like, I can't tell if it's inside the borders or not. It looks like this red part here is in Germany. I don't know where that is, or rather like what city or whatever would be in there, but they're not considered poorer than East Germany. I thought that was pretty interesting. Now, I thought this was pretty crazy. The introduction of color television technology in your countries as a whole world. Look at this. I'm actually, I didn't know this. I guess I could have guessed because Americans always guess America, right? I would have been right. So in the U.S., it looks like we got it pretty much first in the 50s. So we finally won something. All right. I didn't actually realize it was the 50s. I thought it would have been the 60s. So that's pretty cool. I don't know how many shows or what access, was like for most people. I'm sure it wasn't that common still in the 50s, but nonetheless, there it is. Now, most everywhere else would have had to wait till the 60s. Now, what's funny is you look at some other countries, it's kind of crazy. They had to wait till the 70s or 80s, even in Eastern Europe, and of course, all throughout the African continent. Australia was pretty early on in the 60s. People do mention in the comments kind of like what I hinted at, though, even here in the U.S. where we supposedly got it first. It's not like it was common. So people are mentioning that in the 80s, they were watching ScoobyDoo on a black and white TV. And that's just it, right? I'm sure this kind of stuff, remember, nowadays people might have, 4 or 5 TVs in their house, but that's not how it used to be. You usually only had one if you were lucky, and it's not like it was the latest and greatest tech. So was the average person in the U.S. like very commonly watching color TV? I would say no, not even in the 70s. Now, politics is definitely not my strong suit, nor is Italian politics specifically, but I actually did find this pretty interesting. I would love to see any context you guys want to put in the comments down below. This is the result of the 1946 Italian referendum for a monarchy or a republic. And this is pretty cool to see when it's this detailed. You could see an overwhelming majority of the northern half was for blue there, which would have been republic. And then, of course, monarchy being the red, was definitely more dominant in the south. Although, you do see some blue sprinkled in. And you do see some red sprinkled in the blue on the very northern borders here. So more so, I thought this was interesting, but I'm also missing some knowledge and context with this. So You know, it looks like the final tally was that the Republic did win out, obviously. And that, you know, was 12.7 around there million votes to 10.7. So 54% to 45, Republic winning out that vote. A lot of times you would expect it to just kind of be more sporadic, but such a clear divide between North and South with this type of thing. Kind of fascinating. I guess what I'm asking is, why was the South specifically so much more for a monarchy, and why was the North so much more for a republic? I thought this map was hilarious because I've showed basically this map for Europe before, you know, what countries have the higher rates of, you know, drinking and which countries are lower. And this breaks it down actually by counties in the U.S., but what's funny is you don't even need to see it by county. You could just see the overwhelming majority, literally the whole U.S. state of Wisconsin, which is right above me in Illinois. Yeah, Wisconsin's where you go to party and drink. They have a lot of amazing local beers that are well revered throughout the country, and they like it. They never miss a drink. You can see they're kind of in a league of their own when it comes to the whole U.S. They're the only country dominated by red and purple on this chart. Did I just call Wisconsin a country? My apologies. Caught that in editing. Thought it was hilarious. This one's a little bit of a geographical oddity. I did not realize that former Yugoslavia, the shape of it, looks indeed very similar, like about 90, maybe 92% similar to the shape of Iran. I mean, it's kind of crazy, right? There's a couple little differences, but, you know, at first glance, very similar, even with the dip up top and the angle on the west coast here. I feel like with so many countries in the world, you actually don't see many country outlines where they look the same. They're all surprisingly different. This is rare. I always find these interesting as light pollution maps. This is of Britain, of course. And you could see just massive light surge again. London, right? The London area is just huge in this context, right? And then, of course, you see some other bright blips on the map, but otherwise a pretty sparse central and especially northern Britain, right? Looking pretty quiet and pretty dark up there. So, again, pretty interesting to see how countries end up forming. Definitely a heavy population curve to the southern end. Northern Britain is where you go to get away from everything, apparently. Someone mentioned in the comments, I actually have to agree, it's kind of fascinating when you zoom in. You can pretty much see like what looks to be, I'm assuming this is like a major interstate or highway, like lit up, right? Like almost perfectly. And obviously there would be things around that. But then look at the vastness in between. Like there's truly... I'm assuming beautiful nature up this way, just not a lot of people living in these parts. I mean, wow. I also find it interesting how there's a lot of population on this kind of little coast right here, but not over here, right? So like why up here and not down here? It's another one. I mean, it's just more of a curiosity thing. Well, here's an interesting map of Ireland you probably haven't seen. It's a phone. Okay, and it's a legit like phone, but it's a legit map too. I mean, we have actual cities marked out on this. I didn't know this was a thing. It's actually kind of cool. Do they make this for every country? I feel like they should, right? Do you want an Ireland phone? Do you want a Germany phone? You know, maybe a Japan phone? Some countries, it might be a little weird. It might be a little awkward to make the phone work. It might be kind of awkward to hang on your wall, but I like the idea. Even though I'm not Irish, hate the color green, and don't have a phone jack in my apartment, I still weirdly kind of want this. That's how I feel. I mean, I definitely like the color green. I like Ireland. And no one uses these kinds of phones anymore. That's true. But I still agree that, yes, I do want this too. I find this oddly satisfying. Now, here's an interesting one. This is 5G coverage over the whole world. And also, you know, the darker the color is older coverage from like 2019, 2020 was implemented, and lighter colors towards 2023. Now, what's interesting is more of Europe is covered. If you actually look at North America, you know, Mexico and Canada barely have any coverage when it comes to 5G. The U.S. certainly does, but look at it's literally only in the eastern third or maybe eastern half, I guess you could say. The West and the interior Mountain West. you barely have anything unless you're literally way up on the coast. So I found that pretty interesting. Like I said, most of Europe is like heavily covered with the exception of the north and like far east. But nowhere else. I didn't realize that this really hadn't caught on anywhere else with the exceptions of some big players like India and, of course, far eastern Asia with the likes of China and Japan and South Korea. Australia and New Zealand also in on the 5G game, and it might look like they barely have any, although most people living there would have access. Wouldn't you know that most people living there, especially when we talk about Australia, they literally live in these spots. The rest of it, they don't need 5G because literally, look, no one's out there, right? Everyone lives on this East Coast pretty much. These are your chances of being born on each continent. Sorry, y'all, that love Antarctica. I always say that wrong, Antarctica. I'll just say it fast. It sounds more natural. Sorry, you have a 0% chance, all right? Also, sorry, those who love Australia, or just the oceanic region in general, you have less than a 1% chance of being born there. So if you were born in this region, consider yourself rare. I mean, the rarest out of all the continents. It's pretty interesting to think about, and I'm guessing a lot of people that live in Australia or close to it, I bet they didn't know that. I feel like this is pretty cool to see. Even, I guess, me being born in the U.S., trust me, sometimes I'm very proud of it. Sometimes I'm like, why, right? I kid. But pretty rare as well. Less than an 8% chance of being born in North America. Yeah, honestly, the Americas as a whole, pretty rare. High chances of being born in Asia. They lead by a considerable margin. Again, one of those things that it seems like an odd map at first, and it's not something you'd ever guess. But when you see the numbers, it's like, wow, okay. I guess I was born in a pretty rare place. Australia over here, like, yeah, we know we're special. In poor New Zealand, I should have mentioned. Dang it. I did notice that New Zealand wasn't even on there. Shame. Like, so many maps forget New Zealand. It's why? Why does all the map people out there, how do you keep forgetting New Zealand? How? It's such a beautiful place. New Zealand is that sibling that which gets shadowed by his elders. Shadowed, more like disappeared. Yeah. The Great Fire of London overlaid on modern London. That's pretty crazy. Looks like it was in a huge area, I should say. I don't really know much about this. This would be something I have to research. Great Fire of 1666. That was quite a while ago. If any of you remember, if you were there, you'll have to tell me about it. In 1666. What's crazy is someone links this map of, obviously London was smaller back then, and the fire took place. It almost like just decimated the whole city, from what I'm understanding when we look at the city wall here. That is crazy, right? I'll have to look into this. This is, I have a little bit of a thing for great fires just because, as a native of around the Chicago area, we had a great fire in Chicago as well. And so, yeah, that hits a little bit close to home when it comes to history. Now, the heat waves have been crazy in June for most people, at least in the Northern Hemisphere. I'm sure you can relate. These are the highest temperatures ever recorded in Celsius as of June 2025. And again, maybe this goes to only me, I'm not exactly sure, but Europe is a lot hotter than people might expect. It's not like it's like this every day, of course not, but it can get really hot. I'm really shocked to see that Russia has reached 45.4 degrees Celsius. That's insanely hot. But then, of course, as you go south, almost everyone's reached 40. It's kind of hard to believe some places haven't. I didn't realize how mild the climate really was in Ireland. Look at 33.3 is the highest it's ever reached. I can't even comprehend that as an American. Almost everywhere in the U.S., it gets really hot at some point. Much hotter than that. Even look at France, 46, right? 47 in both Spain and Portugal. Even 39, so just under 40 in Andorra. But what's surprising is Eastern Europe and Southeastern Europe really, really get hot. Much hotter even. Here are some internet speeds, at least average internet speeds in Europe in megabytes per second. Now, for reference, I have the best internet you can get. Obviously, they have different plans here. I do a lot online, so I kind of require it. So I justify that in getting the most expensive one. And in megabytes per second, I run about 900 here. Now, of course, that's not standard, right? A standard plan, at least around my area in Illinois, it would be around 100 or 200 megabytes per second, I think. So I'd say it's pretty fast. Now, in a different part of the country, when I used to live in the Southwest, in New Mexico, it was actually surprisingly faster. The standard plan was like 350 or 400 megabytes per second out there. So it does vary greatly. And obviously, I would expect it to vary greatly in Europe as well. I mean, look at the differences, though, right? You have some countries at 200, 214, 232. And, God, you go down to the Balkans down here and 44, 42, 39 in Greece. That's the slowest. I'm sorry, but that is insane. Oh, my God. And this is in 2024. Interesting is the Czech Republic doesn't have a reading. Do you guys have internet? I thought you did, right? I know that they have internet, but it's not recorded for some reason. I think that's rather bizarre. But yeah, I'd say a healthy, 150 to 200s range in, most of it. So it's pretty good. From what I understand, internet prices are a lot cheaper, though, in European countries than here. Because I have kind of a more pricey plan with like the best internet, blah, blah, blah. And the equipment was pretty pricey. I think my modem to get these speeds was $300 something here in the US a few years ago, and I'm still using it. And then, of course, monthly, ours is, like $130 or something. So it's pretty expensive. As a Czech can confirm, I've sent this comment through a smoke signals to Reddit headquarters. Yep, Romania is the only country where you can get 10 gigabit fiber, or 10 gigabit rather, fiber internet for less than $10. Holy crap, it is fast there. 99% of Americans cannot name this country. Yeah, which one is that again? Let's see. It's got like the boot shape, right? It's got this guy here. Can't remember. What is that called? I think like, is Pizza Stand? So you guys will have to fill me in. I've seen a lot of maps like this, where it's like British versus English, and you could see the breakdown here, where English would be, I believe, the pinkish colors, and British being the blue. And you could see, again, near big cities, it seems to be a lot of British identifying, but then everywhere else, I'm assuming in lower population areas and countrysides and all that jazz, it would be more of an English identifying population. So I don't really obviously know what the deal, like, how people decide what they identify as and why in these certain areas. I'm guessing like English would be like they have a history of that, right? Like an actual ethnicity, like, my family's been English for a long time. Generations born in this small English town. I would guess that's where this would come from and would be more aligned with that. And British being someone, it could be someone that grew up there and their parents are from there, or it could be someone that moved there, 6 months ago and they consider themselves British, right? So I feel like that's my guess. Whereas British is thought of as like a national thing, like, yay, I live in, London. I'm British now, right? Like I've worked here for 2 years or whatever. That's my guess. I don't know. Maybe I'm totally wrong. It's less of an ethnicity and more of like a national identity thing. Country names compared to English. So obviously you all hear me talk about country names in English. I speak English, right? But I've always been fascinated about how they're actually called something else usually in their native tongue, as you would expect. And a lot of these I probably won't even get right, but it's cool seeing like Finland is actually called Suomi. Like that is fascinating. What is this? Eesti or Eesti for Estonia? Of course, Deutschland for Germany. Look at Hungary, what that is called. I'm not even going to attempt that. That is fascinating. Hrvatska or Hrvatska for Croatia. I didn't know that. That's very cool. Sakartvelo for Georgia. Hayastan for Armenia. Was this Elada or Eyada for Greece? See, I didn't know this. Look at that. Wow. Question, like, people that are living in Europe, do you normally just, even in whatever language you speak natively, does it show up as one of these actual, I'm assuming like the native names then on a map, in conversation, on the radio? Does it show up as like these actual names more often then? Maybe I would only see the English names because I'm always viewing it from an American lens, like a map on American Google, maps and American books. I'm assuming because I've always seen these as the English names only, that wouldn't be the case over there, though. And finally, we're going to end it with this. The worst map I've ever seen, someone says. Please tell me that this is real. Is this real? Like, our place names, you know, the less famous places in the UK really called these? Swat, Cockbridge, Dick Place, Peterstone, Cock Alley. I don't even want to go forward with some of these just because they're hilarious. YouTube likes to squash fun a lot, so I don't want this to like get flagged or anything. This is hilarious. Please, please, someone tell me that this is true. Maybe this is totally a troll and fake. I'm not exactly sure. Looks like they took a picture of a picture, like it's a picture of a computer screen or something. So this might be legit. I'm not sure. This is pretty legendary. If it is, has anyone done this route? What would you call this route, by the way? That will be a pinned comment. Someone thinks of a genius, name for this. That is hilarious. I could do a million of these. I got to do these more often. I really do like the map episodes. I hope you enjoyed that. It's a great way to start out a Monday, hopefully. And I had fun with that. I appreciate you watching. I can't wait to see your comments for help out with some of the context on these down below. Until next time, y'all. My name is Ian. You're watching IWrocker. Until next time. Said it twice. Sorry. I'll catch you later.